Call this meeting to order. Tonight we're going to be led in the pledge by Mr. Shane Morgan.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. I'd like to welcome everybody to this special call meeting to look at the zone lines for middle schools. Before I turn it over to Mr. Odom and Mr. Morgan, I've got about 3 items here I'd like to go over. First of all, I'd like to welcome our new board member, Mr. Gary Eakes. Mr. Eakes, glad to have you on board. Also, we've had a busy Monday, I guess. Mr. Evans has been really busy, I believe, so I'm going to ask him to make a few comments on what we've dealt with today.
I think Mr. Odom would agree that I earned my salary today. It's been a busy day. So we received some reports over the weekend, mainly from some parents, a few students. I think the board members received some emails as well from a few that there was some sort of epidemic or trend going across the Instagram where they were using, or more than one person or a single person, we're not sure which yet, had set up a Instagram page named after some of the schools, and were basically encouraging students to take pictures of students, female students, and then write degrading comments about them. So several people alerted us to it. It appears that most of it happened over the weekend outside of school, but because the school names were attached to it, that drew even more attention to it as far as we're concerned. And Mr. Odom this morning instructed us to send out a press release and get parents involved to try to get them to help us police it at home, because that's where we need to stop this, is let parents monitor their kids' activities. We think that's the best way to combat it at this point. Our SROs have also been involved, and a number of our administrators have been doing investigations all day to see if there's anything that's school-related. We're limited a little bit on what we can and can't do, because if it didn't happen at school or it didn't cause a disturbance at school, it's outside of our jurisdiction, and so that's kind of where we are today, and we're trying to get parents involved. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
I saw the student messenger that you sent out, and that has turned out to be a very viable tool for us to alert parents of things that have occurred and what the central office is doing to combat or at least meet the challenge or whatever that issue is.
Sure. I tried to use all of our communication channels today. We used our Twitter feed. We used media, obviously. We sent something to the media. We did an email to parents. We put it on our webpage as the main item and things like that, just to get in front of this and try to get people, before they start calling us, explaining to what we know and what we're asking them to do. And we've gotten several good responses today from people who are pleased that we were so proactive with it.
Since we are on television tonight, it's one reason we wanted to let this be broadcast also when it'll be played back. We actually have Instagram blocked on our network, so it didn't generate from our network. It's not going to go through. They're not going to read it from our network. It's coming through their cell phones, smartphones, basically. The other thing that people have to realize, when you start posting pictures, especially if they're of some of the content is some of what we're hearing about, you could be dealing with a felony here. You've got children under 18 years of age. So anybody listening to us, be it parents, students, and all, need to realize this is a very serious matter. But we need parents to help us track this down, who's involved, and monitor their children and what's being posted and all, and get it stopped. We think it was probably started sometime maybe Saturday, Sunday. So we hope we're on the front end of it to try to minimize as much as we can. But with the public's help, we can do that, and that's what we're trying to do.
And I was speaking to Ms. Haggard here today, actually, she's here from the News Journal, and she did some research and thinks that this is part of a national thing that's hit multiple school districts across the country. And so I don't think that we're the only one that's experienced this, but we definitely are the ones that are dealing with it right now. So
I know the SROs are very involved and concerned about it too. So like I say, there are legal implications for people in this realm.
is this something that we were concerned that maybe bring your own device might, this,
Well,
might be?
they weren't apparently even generated from school or while they were at school.
Good,
I mean,
good.
it's over the weekend, basically, so most kids do have cell phones, I mean, whether they bring them to school or not, so I don't think, because with a smartphone, usually is where you can generate Instagrams from and all, and that's apparently what's happened, but, we just want to be proactive. That's what I say, to protect kids, because you know, and you read before, once it gets in the internet and out there, you can't call it back. So it's very serious to these students that might be involved in that.
Anybody else? Mr. Evans, we appreciate that update. Thank you. Last thing I have, is I've got one addition to the agenda that we'll add on at the end, if that's okay with everybody. We left off a non-faculty volunteer coach from last meeting, so if it's okay with everybody, we'll add it on the end here. Let me just say on this zoning meeting tonight, all we're here for is basically information only, good information. We'll have, I think Ms. Michael's you already have another meeting scheduled.
Correct.
In January.
Yes, sir.
And my rathers would be also, whether we decide to make that a public meeting or an additional meeting here to go over stuff. I think we need to have a public meeting whenever we decide, before we make final decisions. So I would anticipate we'll probably have 2 more meetings on this. Everybody good with that? All right, Mr. Odom, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, at the end of the 4th month, Oakland had 1,097 students. That was 55 more than at the end of that 4th month last year. And 55 students is 2 classrooms in growth. And of course, we already have portables there. And we're continuing to see the growth, so it behooves us to begin to try to address it, because we do have some capacity at the Whitworth Buchanan Middle School. So that's what we're trying to do this evening. And I certainly concur with what Mr. Hodge said. Tonight is really an information gathering, and I hope that if you have questions, you'll bring them up. Some of them, Mr. Morgan can generate you the answer for now with the software that we use. Others, we can get the research for you and come back with the information that you may need, because I know this is one of the most difficult things you do is, certainly as board members, is the zoning, and we want to do the best we can for the students of Rutherford County. So Mr. Shane Morgan is our planner, and I'm going to let him kind of kick it off tonight and start with the first one that you will see will be our current zoning maps and numbers. And I think you actually read in data again last week or something like that, didn't you?
Actually, 2 days ago.
So it's current.
Two working days ago.
It's current data that we read in out of our attendance system. So it should be fairly accurate. The other two, there are 2 additional options here. We're basically looking at Oakland Middle, looking at Whitworth Buchanan, and possibly Christiana Middle School. Not necessarily recommending tonight that we bring Rockvale into it. One of the issues we have with Rockvale is the city is, of course, building a new school that includes 6th grade, which overlaps a grade for us. Also, we're doing an addition to Blackman Middle School, for 6th grade, which will increase our capacity there. There's just some things we're not sure about in the Rockvale scenario, that if we make a decision and change those lines, whether that'll impact with what happens next fall or not, as far as enrollment with those 2 scenarios with the city schools. So we have some information if you want to look at that. But basically, we were concentrating on addressing the need at Oakland Middle School, and in addition to that, kind of smoothing out some of the lines with transportation with the new Joe B. Jackson extension that's coming out on 231. Trying to look to the future a little bit there and see if there's some way we can also address that at the same time. Mr. Morgan.
Okay. Just to give you a brief overview of how this data comes together, and this is, of course, mainly for the benefit of Mr. Eeks, but the way that the data is put together is we take our student information system, STAR, we generate a report from it of all the students in our system, and then we take reports from nutrition and from special education. We link them up by their student ID, and then I plot them, literally plot each student on the map per their address. Once that's done, we kind of pare it down to the group that we're looking at. In this case, it's 6th through 8th, and then formulate our demographics from there. It's based on the living address of the student. It's not based on where they go to school. There's no way to project, exactly where they'll go to school next year. If, for example, a student lives in Laverne but goes to school in Christiana. There's just no way to make that happen. So the best way for us to do this is to literally work with the students that live within the zone. So we're using real addresses here. Beyond that, we try to make it a little bit more substantial and finite as we finish the zoning process. So basically that if a student's in that same scenario in Laverne attending in Christiana, we kind of add them back into the mix at the end of the process. And we end up with about a 95% success rate. So we've been very fortunate with the software that we use.
We're not proposing changes in elementary zones, since some of this is city also, in elementary zones nor high school zones at this time to go with that. So it's focused primarily on that middle school area.
Just to give you an idea of what's going on right now, we'll go through the numbers real quick. Oakland Middle School, as of the third month report, was 1097. Students living literally in the zone were 1066. It's a difference of 31. Those students could live anywhere in the county or in the state of Tennessee for that matter. We do have a few teachers that bring their students in from Antioch and Franklin, so on and so forth. The free and reduced right now is 43%. At the Whitworth Cannon Middle, we have 746. In zone, 695. Those living out are 51, again with 43% free and reduced.
And that was an open zone school last year.
Yes.
So people could apply to attend Whitworth Buchanan if we declared it open zone.
Christiana Middle School is at 878. In zone is 832. Out of zone, 46 with a 42% free and reduced. And Rockvale, the current enrolled is 984, in zone 934, out of zone 50 with a 37% free and reduced. This is the area that I've been asked to specifically look at for this information for this rezoning. If you go to the first sheet I handed down at the bottom, you'll see it's marked MS03. One of the ideas here was to clean up the lines. And when I say clean up the lines, I mean use natural barriers as much as possible, streams, lakes, that sort of thing. And then beyond that, to use those that are large man-made barriers. In this case, we're looking at the interstate. And you'll see a reoccurring theme in the northern part of this area near Halls Hill Pike is where we're talking about making the biggest change. That would bring out students from the current Whitworth Buchanan, or I'm sorry, from Oakland and put them in Whitworth Buchanan. We're going to look at the same basic number in the next slide that we see. The one thing I want to point out in this scenario is we're switching, and we're only changing the number by 2 students with the current addressing. You have 181 up in this little area that is somewhat inner city, and you have 179 down there inside the Christiana area. It's not in that zone right now, but it's in that basic area. It will reduce travel times for those living in the rural area, as well as the travel times for those that are living up in that 181 area too. It also makes everything just kind of nice and clean and gives us a place to kind of grow from in the future.
Your blue lines are your existing,
That's right.
currently existing zone lines, so you can tell relatively easily where it's been moved from. So that kind of lets you see that.
Those yellow numbers too give you an idea of, especially in the more urban area, I tried to give you a sense of, a pocket here and a pocket there. And of course, we can drill down and get much smaller areas to give you numbers on it, if you'd like.
Did you advance students a year for next year in this scenario?
No, sir. And there's 2 reasons, major reasons why. Now, when we've worked with middle schools before, one of the things we've tried to do is collect the data from the city. We have an average that we basically take in every year from their 5th to 6th grade. We kind of know what we're going to get as far as an average. This year, they have kind of, they've rezoned their entire system to begin with, and now they're adding a new school. So we really don't know what to expect as far as how many students will actually cross the line and come over. So the best way for us to work with this particular data was to take the students that we had this year, graduate them to next year and say, okay, you're just going to be the same students. And then at the end of the process, or as we're pulling our numbers in closer to decide what we actually have, we'll add like that 3% growth that we normally work with for each class.
Mr. Morgan?
Yes, sir.
If I can ask you, take that model and from Joe B. Jackson and run it up to 24 to 231. How many children would be in that area?
Let me make sure I understand.
Take I-24.
You're talking
right there.
Right in there?
Take 24, east of 24, run it up to 231,
Okay.
and catch all that area. How many would be in there? I mean, trying to clean up some lines is what I'm thinking.
Well, one of the reasons that line is the way it is in that particular scenario, literally is because, we have to make sure that we get enough density in each one of these little pockets that we
Okay.
work with. So that's kind of why it went back over.
It went back.
You're actually going from a suburban area into an industrial type.
Right.
And the only thing we really have there are hotels, which, of course, we get Atlas from, but we don't know from one day to the next what that's going to entail.
Okay.
But I'd be glad to.
But it wouldn't affect the numbers that much?
I really don't, not in that particular area.
Right, so if we cleaned the lines up, it wouldn't affect the numbers?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Can you flash up where your X's are there or not?
Where
Where your houses are there, do you have that?
those
Where
particular.
he's talking about, can you flash?
Yeah, I don't know if I know exactly. So you're saying I-24 and 231?
Or Joe B. Jackson,
Okay,
on I-24, that exit right there.
okay.
How you've got it blocked off now, if I see right, on this view proposal.
Okay,
Go straight up 24 till you hit 231,
okay,
and then close all that in to the proposed, yeah,
I see what
Just
you're
that right
saying.
there.
Yes, sir, I do.
just close that in. How many children would be affected by it? Because I mean, I'm just trying to think of cleaning up, straightening out the lines.
Sure.
Because if I'm thinking if we're busing children from South Rutherford all the way to Christiana,
So we're talking about that one right there?
no, go on the other side of 24, east side of 24.
There's a little section there.
Right there.
Yeah, right in there. That's the section, and on up, I believe it was, all the way to 24 there.
Well, just in that area, you have 12,
12, and then that, right there in that pocket, you were just at it,
right here.
right there.
So that makes it 17.
And then on over, to fill in all the way that you have.
You're
Right
still.
there. Take the one from South Rutherford, take it up. Well, yeah, you're right, right there.
31.
31 students, okay. So that's not a big change.
No, sir, I don't think so.
But
Now,
that would straighten out the lines though, wouldn't it? Coming up 24?
Yeah, I mean, it would make it solid all the way up.
Right. But it would make it easier for a parent to understand the boundary lines or rezoning lines.
As far as middle school, I can see where you would say.
Okay, that's all I was asking.
Well, I was just going to say, is the reason you left that the way it is there a transportation issue?
I was literally thinking just the total number that was left in that area.
Okay.
And trying to take as little away as possible.
Just a question I got, Mr. Morgan, is what concerns me, is your free and reduced. I guess on the 03 deal, I know it looks like we've got 107 downtown area.
Yes, sir.
You got 63 over here, Halls Hill area. As far as out of that 63, how many of those are, I guess what I'm trying to distinguish the downtown area versus the Halls Hill area, how many of those free and reduced?
Well, unfortunately, that whole area from the inner city all the way through to the county line down Halls Hill, you're going to find that a large percentage of those students are going to be in a low poverty situation.
They are, I'll admit they are free and reduced.
So I guess my next question would be, do you think, I know it's not your call, but do you think 63% free and reduced is good?
Right?
We discussed it, it's not something we really want to do, but there's not enough students out in the county to move the students you need out of Oakland unless you go up and pull some of these higher density areas. And we looked at 2 or 3 scenarios, and then when you go up to find a spot you can pull enough students, you're pulling students who tends to be higher percentages of free reduced. That's what we ran into.
Yes.
We looked, well, you can see from the streets, kind of on the map, they're just not, the density when you get out into the county, that's our issue. What he's going back to is the
Yes, sir.
03 slide, I think is what he's talking about here.
And we have to liken it somewhat to the situation we're faced with in Laverne. You have an extremely high dense area. It's landlocked. It kind of is what it is. There's nothing that we can do to change the actual, we can't change the neighborhood. We can service the neighborhood, we can't change it.
I was surprised at the density right here with this 181, this little area right here. And the student numbers, you see, is larger than all of this down through here.
Yes, sir. You
That's
have,
what we're talking about, limiting your density. When you go through here, you go all of this out in the county area, you got 179 students, you get right up here in this pocket, and there's 181 in just that little pocket.
where the actual 181 is, north of Bradyville Pike, you have, I think, 4 apartment complexes that are, multiple units. You also have a very large low-income neighborhood within that same area. And then south of 99, and south and west of 99, between that and Rutherford, you have Kensington Square, Kensington, and those few neighborhoods. Of course, they're not densely populated, but they're part of that area.
That's been Christiana Middle. That little
Yeah.
Yes, sir,
image
it
up
has
there has
been.
been Christiana Middle. So I guess it comes to some of the kind of the same things as the city ran into with their zoning this time. Do you want to get as close to your school in the neighborhood concept, or how do you, if you go back out, you take that and put it back at Christiana Middle, then to get something to offset that with your numbers, you're gonna have to go back, you're gonna have to move this back into this area over here. I mean, where we can't metal again.
Right now, Christiana's got 878, correct?
Yes.
If I'm
Yes.
reading this thing right.
Yes.
You're gonna take 181 out of there and put them into, Whitworth?
Yes, sir.
All right,
With this particular plan, we would basically be taking 181, putting them in one school, 179, and putting them in another school.
And let me get this straight, that is closer to the elementary school lines as it is right now?
Let me show you
For that
the,
179?
yeah, I'll be glad to show you what those elementary school lines look like.
So now that would make a lot of parents very happy if it's really close to them.
Yeah, see, with that plan, it does bring it in somewhat closer.
So it makes it more where they're already Christiana.
And now that we say that, Mr. Nipper, that may be, actually, if you look at this, that may be one of the reasons that I left it the way it was.
Okay. All right.
It may not have been about numbers in that particular area. It may have been continuity for Barfield Elementary School.
Okay.
Some of this I've worked on, I've been working on this over,
Right.
the course of 2 months now, so I forget little things sometimes.
Yeah, easy.
Barfield has 920 in this little area here.
And this is just for curiosity, because I know we can't use 41 as a boundary since that school is right there on it. But
Right.
I was just curious as to what is in that sliver. Is that hard to tell?
It'd take me just a second. Do you want to go,
Yes, sir.
you want to just pick them
Yes,
as I
I'm
go?
just saying, hypothetically, if 41 could be used as a boundary.
Sure.
What would that slither, what are the numbers there?
If we go south of Joe B. Jackson,
Yes, sir.
and we just take it down to where they meet, basically, we're talking about 43 students.
Okay.
And I didn't look at them as they added up, but I'm almost positive they're almost all north of the elementary school.
Yeah, I mean, it's not something I would propose, but I
Yeah.
was curious.
Yeah.
So with this proposal like it is, we would just reduce Oakland Middle by 151?
Thereabouts, yes, sir.
Okay. So how long would it take to refill that number?
Probably not long.
Not long. So we might
I
be
mean,
going
as
through
you can
this.
see on our original numbers, I mean, when you start looking at it, you got 1,097, but you go to Christiana, you got 878. Rockvale's got 984. You had 746. So the one you're really adding to is to place them in Whitworth Buchanan, but the others are already so far.
So we'll be revisiting this soon. Or new school.
Sooner than we're ready to, probably.
Would you like me to move on to the other proposal?
You know, I think our issue is kind of, a whole lot of it, our issue is, this area right here, if you want us to look at other scenarios, this area right here controls your numbers, and this area controls that free reduced number. I mean, both of them are in that area, you know, I mean, so, and you're gonna have to leave that probably with Christiana if you're dealing big time with the free reduced. I don't know, to then pick up, if we left that with Christiana, I'm not sure exactly where we go to Whitworth Buchanan to pick up the other, to replace that number is so large. It's 180.
181.
Yeah, where can we go down here in the current Christiana to get get anything like that 181 back? That's a problem.
Their density sits up in Barfield. I mean, it's all right there. If you go past the school, you end up in a rural area that, you know, that you can't refill that number. Even tried, just for, you know, the sake of argument, trying to basically cut this off just below Whitworth Buchanan and send them all to one side or another. There's just not enough there.
Yep.
And not only are there not enough students there, even if you had the students there, you wouldn't have the free and reduced numbers because there's not a high poverty rate in that area of the county, even with the few students that are there.
We actually brought, the principals are here tonight, you're welcome to involve them if you want. We brought them and we're showing them these scenarios too. And it's just difficult to get the balances done.
Let me ask one question about the Rockvale. You comment that it wasn't going to be touched yet. It picks up 47 students. Where do they come from?
The 47, do you know where the 47?
That goes to that Rockvale picks up.
Say that one more time. I'm not.
Okay, you initially had 984 at Rockvale. You show proposal with 1031. And Mr. Odom's comment that you weren't
My guess
ready
is,
to deal with
are
Rockvale,
they at Eagle?
Yes.
so they'll come
That's
from
exactly what-
that
He
zone.
did by street addresses, but remember,
Okay.
Eagleville took students to the point that they could. They have about 60 on a waiting list that would still like to go to Eagleville. So when he did it by pure street address.
So that may not be, like you said earlier, I guess,
That's right.
not totally accurate,
That's right.
but just an approximation.
I mean, these are literally the numbers that, again,
thank you.
live within the boundary. But you're right, it was Eagleville, for the most part.
You want to show them another, then we can come back. And this,
Yes.
the other one was, only involves basically Oakland and Whitworth Buchanan, right?
Yes.
To see what we could do to make it happen there, just involving those two schools by themselves.
And basically what you're seeing here is, you know, that 150 or so students, we were able to pare it back just a little bit. on the inner city, closer to the MTSU campus, on that side of 96. Bring it back down a little bit so we didn't have as much disturbance. But we still jack that number for free and reduced up, but as you can see, it doesn't go quite that high. It basically lands somewhere in the middle of where it is now and where it could potentially be if we were a little bit more aggressive.
You know, 03 is, illustration 03 is, the lines are much more consistent.
Yes.
But with 02, you know, reducing that free and reduced 7%, 9%, that's significant. Of course, the lines are not very attractive with the way they,
It's a whole lot like we are now, I mean, as
Yeah.
far as that. You have to gerrymander around a little bit to accomplish it.
and parents don't understand.
I know. The other thing that we talked about, meaning this one, is, you know, I think you're gonna see this Joe B. Jackson grow. I mean, I think now with that road and coming out on 231, that we're gonna, through that, some of that's through some fairly open land. So I do expect that to grow, but even in either scenario that we look at there, there's not a lot of capacity to even to grow, although it's going to happen. And certainly when they extend Joe B. Jackson the other way, over here to come back over to Woodbury Highway eventually, what, you know, that plan is, that's a whole nother area that's going to be very open for development too. Goes in front of Amazon, you know, and it comes out all the way over to, and of course the city right now, you know, out by Whitworth Buchanan put the new electrical station there and all to handle it, so they're preparing for it. Sewer came out that way when we opened Whitworth Buchanan, and also there's, the ingredients are there for that side to develop also.
But we went through the same frustration with the Stewart Creek rezoning in trying to work out the free and reduced and the density with Laverne and Smyrna, just where they are, and trying to get it to mesh exactly the way we would want to, just is problematic because of transportation and the other factors. And it's just got to do the best you can and just work within the lines.
Anybody else have anything? I'm sort of in agreement with Mr. Blair as far as the 02 right now, just looking at this thing, the way it is, as far as free and reduced. I don't know if we did it in the past, but we've got our middle school principals here that will be affected. So if it's okay with the board, I'll ask them if they have any points to make. I think Miss Edwards from Oakland Oakland Middle School, she had a knee replacement, I believe, this last week.
Todd Williamson's back there.
Who's
He's
that?
behind the,
Okay, okay.
his assistant, he's back there.
He'll represent them, so I'd invite any of you, Mr. Horn, Ms. Seymour. I know Mr. Barlow, I don't think we're really looking at affecting you right now, but if you've got any points, feel free to make them. Because we're open for guidance also. Mr. Horn, or?
The primary concern.
Would you step to the mic when you do, because of the recording and it being on people in the TV?
Good evening. The primary issue or concern that we deal with at Christiana Middle School is with parents with more than one child. Christie Elementary is right next door to our school, serves K-6. And so in many cases, they'll end up with one in the lower grades at the elementary school, but yet one of the older students, when they leave that school, they'll end up going all the way to Buchanan, or in some cases, they'll go all the way, one will end up at Rockville. And just, obviously, the students have grown up with the same group, gone to school, same buddies and stuff, but they'd like to move on to one school. So, you know, it's your decision, but it makes it very difficult for parents to pick up and transport students, and I mean, that's a, you know, when you have that middle school right next door, you know, if you, and I'm not for or against, I think differently sometimes. So if you think of a Buchanan Elementary student, and then one's going all the way to Christiana Middle School, it's just you know, that's a long distance. And it seems to be where we get a lot of zone exemption requests to stay close to, you know, their younger siblings. Anybody
We
with a
kind of got
question?
that same problem with Brown's Chapel. You know, it's just nest on, right between Stewart's Creek and Blackman, and it's just, you know, is it, what, two elementary schools to a middle school, and two middle schools for a high school too, so,
Buchanan Elementary doesn't have any extra capacity.
yeah.
I mean, we just got out of the portables out there, if you remember, we moved them out, so you kind of looked at that, I mean, that's tough, but that's, we don't have capacity at Buchanan, that school to handle it.
Ms. Seymour, you have anything?
Well, of course, I'm not as tall as Bob Horn. Of course, when I look at the MS02, I'm encouraged more by the free and reduced lunch numbers there, and I would like for my school not to become another inner-city school, which is kind of my fear here. If we stick with that one, then there's that group of 181 that we don't shift back to me. We're more than willing to do our fair share because we know that our school does have smaller numbers, and we're more than willing to take, you know, additional kids from Oakland and give them some relief because we know that it's, you know, been inequitable for a while. But looking at these proposals, I would be more in favor of that one. We do have kind of a nice rural area, but as Mr. Odom said, I mean, the building is not there right now, but it's getting ready. I mean, they're preparing the way to really start a growth spurt at our school, but of course, we want to do our fair share at this point.
Thank you.
You know, we even looked at our other side, and you dealt with this a couple of years ago. Siegel is so full. You know, we couldn't get Oakland relief on the other side because what we had at Siegel, because your Siegel middle numbers are 1,055 and grew by 52 this year. So, you know, with portables already there. So we couldn't do anything at all for Oakland on the other side.
Mr. Williamson, you want to say anything on Oakland's behalf?
I think as far as Oakland's concerned, we appreciate the relief that the zone lines are going to bring. We're right now looking at 4 or 5 teachers on carts and with 2 portables. So we understand the free and reduced lunch rates, but I think every year it seems like, you know, we're bringing in, every few weeks, we're bringing in 5 to 10 kids and maybe only losing 1. So that transient population is a lot of what we deal with as well. So again, I think we appreciate any help the board can bring to the lines.
I guess, anybody else got anything? I was going to ask Mr. Morgan something else. Mr. Morgan, as far as this area up here, zone lines for Oakland Middle,
You want to go back to the current situation, look at it?
that's fine, yes.
Would you go back to our current one and then as he looks at
I
that?
guess my question would be, how many more areas is there to be built up? I can't.
Actually, that was one thing that I was going to try to talk more to you about was, you know, when I'm looking at this, looking at the county as a whole and trying to help with this, one of the things that I'm asked about a lot is what is the inventory, what's the current inventory out there right now? What's available that's being built on? And it's not just that, we have to look a little bit further too, what's being rezoned? For example, down Manchester Pike right now between Joby Jackson and Rutherford, there are 4 40-acre plus properties that are up for rezoning to multifamily purposes. And the apartment situation within about a 5-mile radius of the courthouse is kind of getting out of control. And that's where we're going to find our biggest problems. Anywhere within about a 5-mile radius of the courthouse.
Just going back to my question, it looks like the biggest problem we've got is Oakland Middle School. Zero in just strictly on that area, because I don't know too many areas that are left in that area to build on.
There's always room to build, but there's nothing going on out there. It's in a different part of the county that we're seeing the growth. Up and down 231, of course, out in Blackman still, and anywhere down the I-24 corridor, we're going to continue to see that explosion of housing.
That's my concern, that we move all these students out to Whitworth, and you have a population growth out there with all this stuff that you're basically saying on the drawing board, and then we're back to square one again.
Yes, sir.
So that's why I'm curious, as far as Oakland Middle, how much more building can go on in that area?
Before our next meeting, I can make sure to prepare, very specific detail about where the inventory is and where rezoning is happening.
There's some building going on in Lascassas, although it's completing out subdivisions, it's not a lot of new things like that, right, Mr. Young, I think?
New development out there by that site, but I don't know exactly.
The most recent has been some of that area closest around Oakland Middle School itself. Back in the city, right on top of it, behind it, as that's expanded. I don't know how much capacity is still there.
200 lots planned for that area.
Where is that, right?
The property that's right behind, that's right behind the middle school, or adjacent.
Osborne Lane?
There's a place behind John Pitter where they just sold 40 lots and another 50 lot section in that subdivision directly behind John Pitter, which will be in Oakland's zone. I know that because my builder's the guy that's got the contract on those.
I think it's going to be close into town. I think they'll continue to grow.
When we were discussing our long-range building plans just a few weeks ago, we literally talked about the tsunami effect of all these different areas all starting to grow at the same time and impacting just the entire county. So it doesn't look like any particular areas is taking off big at this point, but they all seem to be growing a little bit each time, which is just giving us a student population we don't have construction for at this point. Do we know how many apartment complexes are in our future now? We've seen so many spring up and are filling up. Do you know how many are being proposed at this point?
Inside the Murfreesboro?
Yes, sir.
Actually, I just got a new report yesterday and haven't had the opportunity to filter through it for that. And that's something I do on a regular basis.
And that seems to impact us immediately more than any subdivision does, because they just seem to fill up so quick.
Yeah, I mean, generally, when we get around a 200-unit complex, we're looking at somewhere between 30 to 60 students coming out of each one. Of course, that's K through 12. They could be anywhere. And depending on where they're at in the city, you're going to get maybe more elementary than you are high school, so on and so forth. And it also depends on what types of units are are available to people that are occupying them. I mean, if you have a multifamily area that has more 3 bedrooms, you're more likely to see high school students in there. But generally speaking, you're seeing a lot of elementary go along with those apartment complexes, especially inner city.
This, from a year ago, looking at our numbers, again, Oakland grew by 55 new students, Whitworth Buchanan grew by 33. So still that area behind it appears to be going a little bit faster than what, last year anyway, grew there. Let's look at, another scenario. Look at this, give us some feedback on another scenario. I do think we need to do something about this 1,097. There's just not kids out in here for us to get. There's just not any density there.
It's only 63.
There's not much out here in these little, see, this right here is already Whitworth Buchanan, all of this here.
It's just a little bit above that goes to Oakland Middle, and that's around my area.
Well, it's like Flat Rock Road, for example.
Yeah.
You know how long that road
Yes.
is? There are only 13 children on the entire road, and that's K through 12. I mean, there's just, you got 63 in that huge area, and you've got 55 in an area that's just a microcosm of that entire area.
If we send more to Whitworth Buchanan, just kind of forgetting Christianity, if we send more to Whitworth Buchanan, this is your Oakland Middle, we're gonna be on top of the school, because to get them, you're gonna have to go up in here, aren't we? If you put, if you just taking Christiana out of it, if you get in here and they're trying to bring some out of this and bring them here, you can see your current zone for Oakland Middle, you're gonna have to get up in here, and right at 96 is Oakland Middle. So you're just gonna be right on top of them to pull them out to Whitworth Buchanan.
Yeah, there's no other way, a place to get the density of the students, irregardless of what the free and reduced is.
That was our biggest dilemma, is to try to get somewhere we could get them, because they're just not out here. The students are not out here.
We may be calling you quite a bit over the next few days.
Yeah, I have a feeling you'd say.
This is probably one of the toughest ones we've ever looked at, because the density is so clustered around even existing schools. Like I say, you're right there on top of Oakland, right there. Just don't have anywhere to go. If you go up in here, you got some, but again, that's right on top of, almost on top of Oakland too.
If it would help, one of the things that Mr. Nipper had asked me for before, and I'm just offering this out, it might help you in this process, just because we're looking at a matter of density over anything. I prepared a map for you when we were doing the last zoning, where, when I'm doing this, I'm looking at all these little blocks that are made up of census blocks and our zoning and other things. But it gives you a way to group little areas together. And I can place a number in there and make you a paper map of the area, and you can filter through it and just kind of glom those together and, maybe come up with some ideas to present.
We might produce that for them, that might help a little bit.
Yeah.
And he's talking about his blocks, these are little census blocks, all these little blocks he's talking about in here. Kind of let you see numbers like that.
Give you an idea of what's in that neighborhood too.
Did you look at busting that 181 up, the right side of that Highway 99 there going to Whitworth Buchanan, and the left side going to Christiana?
Have I looked at it? No, sir, I haven't. It's just such a dense area in there.
Splitting hairs.
Yeah, and we were trying to, make that line somewhat contiguous, so if we go in there and start pulling pieces apart, it kind of breaks the idea of not having that contiguous zone. But of course,
Go back to it, just a minute, flip back to it.
So we're talking about this area right in here,
Yeah, just splitting that in half, and
basically down Bradyville Pike, is it?
exactly. And you may have to go on up 41.
Here's one thing to consider with that. Where north of Bradyville in this section, low poverty. South of Bradyville in that section, high income, very high income.
So it doesn't have to agree.
I mean, literally Bradyville Pike is kind of the divider
reversed, it would
for
help.
stats.
To the other side of the road.
There's I don't know if you're familiar with it, but there's a creek that runs through there. That creek is a divider of class, it literally is.
Go through there every day. Just-
In the 03 illustration, up here, North Maple and Northfield Boulevard, it's the green area, in this illustration,
Okay,
That's Siegel.
is that Siegel?
yes, sir.
That's Siegel.
All of our middle schools toenail into the city, basically,
Okay.
what you'll see.
And then under 02, instead of going to Siegel,
No, it's still Siegel.
It's still
oh, okay,
Yeah, I haven't moved it, the colors are just
okay,
different.
I wondered, okay, all right,
Just to try to differentiate one plan from another. plan.
gotcha, okay.
I asked Mr. Murphy basically the same question you did as we looked at that. That you'd actually, literally, if you tried to flip it, you're going to have to transport them through one zone to get them to the other.
Not a good thing.
No.
Basically, narrowing this thing down, looking at free and reduced again, we're talking about between the 63% and 54%, 18 students. Is that correct?
Let me ask you another situation here. Would you like to kind of see, if you're concentrating on the 54%, we could possibly shift some more students somewhere out here back over to Christiana to allow this more room for growth. But I think Christiana's going to grow also. I mean, I think, especially with that Joe B. Jackson piece up there is my only other thought, but we could pick some area or something and put it back over here, and that would reduce that number a little more, but I don't know where we can bring that one down from it. Almost any of this area that you pull off is going to raise that number, am I correct?
Yes.
I mean, I think if you, any of this area that we take right now and pull away from Whitworth Buchanan to bring over to here is going to raise that number some, because that's not particularly poverty areas.
Yeah, it'll do it a little, a little at a time. You just don't have in that particular part now, over by Whitworth Buchanan, you have some wealth in there, but on the other side of 24, I'm not saying that you don't have people that are in a middle income bracket, because that's basically what it is. It's all middle income right in that area. And they can kind of fall on one side of the free and reduced fence or the other, depending on how they manage their personal property.
Could we, if we take, I'll be honest, I like the 03 one better. Could we actually put more services at Whitworth Buchanan?
Flip it back to 03, you got 102.
Could we put more services maybe to help the students?
Well, that's what we did at Laverne High and some others,
Would
you
that,
know. And I don't know, maybe Miss Seymour can can kind of address this to us. As the Whitworth Buchanan grows, the area that you've got is probably gonna be more middle income and not free reduced areas, because the open areas, unless it's apartments totally, that are subsidized or something like that, is probably gonna be better than what we have possibly already. I mean, because it's gonna be open to brand-new subdivision type development. You know what I mean? It would have a potential to go down over time in the percent. Unless you get it, unless somebody comes out with a big apartment that's,
Most of the conversation that I've heard has been just homes, apartment complexes along that line.
The $250,000 single-family home is currently what's being built in your area. All the subdivisions that are new, that are in that area, that's literally what you're looking at, is somewhere between 200 to 250,000 per home. And they're kind of grouped together right there around the school. But as we branch out and get closer to that industrial area, you're gonna see factory workers that wanna live close to work, and that's gonna attract those builders for apartments. And they've got plenty of space out there to do it.
How far out did the city annex?
The city is down to Joe B. Jackson. And that's another thing, as Mr. Odom said, all the sewer work that's gone out there, you know, it was taken out to the school, but just, I'd say 3 months ago, they also finished a project of running brand-new force main all the way down Joe B. Jackson. So it is setting up for any kind of building to go on there. I know a lot of people look at it and think, oh, this is just industrial, but there are homes sitting right there too. And all types of homes. There are multifamily townhomes, there are single-family quarter-acre lots sitting right there, and they're continuing to build.
Whatever the build is going to affect us, because we're the ones having to educate middle school.
That's right.
So it's not going to affect, you know, it may have some bearing on the elementary somewhere along the line, but the biggest thing is it'll affect us middle school and high school. Anybody else?
you know, see Rock Vale, it even comes up there around McFadden, see? I mean, literally, that's been in there for a number of times, so every middle school we have, it's not a pie, but it comes in basically to the city, and that's where most of your areas for your free reduced and your numbers tend to come from. You get quite a few students up in that area, don't you, Mr. Barlow? Do you want us to try to see what we can do again with that free reduced number? I mean, we'll have to do a little bit of lining around in there, but getting enough students to get Oakland down at the same time is going to be the toughest thing we do.
I think, you know, based on what you're saying, I think if you go doing that, you're going to be right on top of front door of Oakland Middle School.
If you go that side, you will.
I mean, to reduce it, I think that's what you're going to have to do.
Well, and if we start moving them too much, then we kind of destroy the elementary zones again too. I mean, not redoing the elementary zones, but trying to keep, you know, families in the same community complex that we've set up here over the last few years, so.
A lot of that is in the city too, so it does affect those that's further out, going to Christiana, but a lot of that circling around this area in the city up here is actually city schools in that, because that would be their elementary schools.
I mean, I'd like to see something like MS03 where the boundaries go out are more defined, because right now I know parents who have a game at Christiana Elementary. Their kid has a game at Whitworth, same night, same time.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's one parent. She can't go both places. And some child gets disappointed.
What I'd propose, and it's just me, I'd like for Mr. Morgan to look at, the information he just got yesterday or today, whenever it was, of what's on the drawing board.
Yes, sir.
And basically get with each board member, email it to the board members, also email it to the middle school principals, and anybody's got any feedback, give it to Mr. Odom or Mr. Morgan one, and let them work on any other adjustments they can before we meet again. That's just my recommendation. Anybody else got anything? Ms. Michaels, when's the next scheduled meeting?
January the 22nd at 5:30.
January 22nd.
Yes.
Mr. Todd, you had one addition?
I'm sorry?
You had one addition?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just trying to, if that's agreeable with everybody, we'll let Mr. Morgan check that out and email each board member, email the middle school principals, send your input back to Mr. Morgan, Mr. Odom, and,
He's going to include for you also that breakdown with those little blocks, so you can see if you pull some of that block, what happens. How difficult is it for you to do free reducing those blocks?
It's not difficult for me to do it.
Doesn't tell you anything if we average it back together.
Yeah, you literally, there's a lot of math for you to do if I do that. I can include the number of free and reduced, I can include the percentage therein if that's what you want to do. It's literally the click of a button to turn it on so you can see it.
It would let you know if it's higher than what you got. It would let you know whether bringing this group would raise it or lower it a little. I mean,
I think the percentage may be the most
yeah, I think that.
applicable addition. So number of students and then the percentage.
Percentage per area.
Please.
Okay.
everybody good with this? How about public hearing? Everybody good with that? Having a public hearing on it?
Yes. Do we have a schedule?
No, I'm going to ask Ms. Michaels to schedule that after that, if you would.
Okay.
At Oakland Middle? Or do we know?
We don't know, but
Not yet, okay.
we can work on that.
Okay.
The last item I've got, the last board meeting, we left off a non-faculty volunteer coach that Mr. Tackett contacted me on, and we need to get approval on this gentleman, Brian Scott Helton, Stewart's Creek High School wrestling.
So moved.
Second.
We've got a motion by Mr. Blair and a second by Mr. Nipper. Any discussion on this?
Comes with Mr. Tackett's recommendation.
Yes, sir. Anybody else? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Anything else? Mr. Eakes, once again, glad to have you and look forward to working with you. Nothing else, we're adjourned.